Hello people, and welcome to Crypto Exposed. Tensions rise in the XRP community as Ripple reverses stance on XRPL smart contracts. Okay guys, let's get into it. So, I'm sure you guys have all heard the news at this point that Ripple have, recently put out a post where they're basically now, that they're actually looking at smart contracts as something that they really would like to introduce to the XRP ledger. And as you can tell, it's caused a bit of a divide within the community. And so I just thought I would address this because I'm sure you guys are wondering, what's people's thoughts about this and stuff. Look, first and foremost, when it comes to the tensions, there's tensions for two reasons, right? First and foremost, you've got the people who are the developers. And the reason why they're frustrated is because they've wanted smart contracts on the XRP ledger for a long time. Now, Witsay Wend, who is a very prominent figure within the XRP community, he actually created the Zahao network, which was once going to be called XRP Plus. He's the one who ended up just forking his own network off of the XRP ledger because he was waiting for Ripple to, look at trying to introduce smart contracts. And he got to a point where he just got fed up and said, okay, we'll just do our own version of the XRP ledger, and we'll just fork it, and we'll have our own, our own sidechain, and we'll create our own version of XRP how we want it to be with smart contracts on there. And so, you've got people like that who are, and I honestly say I understand it. I do get it, because imagine how long has the Zahao network been out now? It's got to have been like a few months, right? It's not really been that long, and after years of trying to get to Ripple to say, hey, we really think this is a good idea, we really want this as developers, we think it'll be good, for them to be like, no, and then they go off and fork their own chain, and then, a few months later, they're like, actually, we think smart contracts is a good idea, we're thinking about trying to get that on the XRP ledger. Like, you can imagine the frustration of the developers, right? So, you've got those guys, and then you've got the community who are basically looking at people like David Schwartz, who has once said, look, we don't want to put smart contracts on the XRP ledger because it could bog down the network. It could actually affect what XRP is most known for and best at, which is payments, right? Because it'll affect the TPS and stuff like that. And so this is where the divide comes in. Now, you've got the other people who are thinking, well, smart contracts, Ethereum is doing so well because it's a smart contracts platform. It's what brings a lot of developers to, the network, because they can create dApps that use smart contracts. And this is one of the things that people have argued with XRP as to why it doesn't have as many developers on there, because it's really more of a payment network, whereas Ethereum's more of a smart contract based network. So they can make dApps that are a bit more accessible for the average day user, because if you're not specifically using XRP for payments, then you're a bit more limited in what you can create on the network, right? And so I do understand both sides, but what do I think about this? Well, okay, this is the thing. I do understand the caution, if I'll be honest with you, because as we were saying earlier, David Schwartz has, he said this directly and literally up until I want to say a month or so ago, he literally said, hey, don't think this is a good idea. Don't think we should really be going for smart contracts. So this is a very quick pivot that he's had, because this isn't something where he said this from a year ago, and then you can say he's had this change of heart over time. This is really sudden. And so you do have to question what's happened to suddenly make him, be so positive about smart contracts on the XRP ledger. Now, don't get me wrong, he has gone on to X and addressed some of this, and he's saying, look, I didn't think it was a good idea before. Now I've been shown some data that's maybe changed my mind. I think it is possible that we could get smart contracts on the XRP ledger, and it won't bog down the network. So I now think that's possible. Look, my thing is this. They've been saying this for so long. I do question this. I'm just going to be completely honest. If you up until a month ago were saying, no, we don't think this is a good idea, and then you've just had this swing pivot, to me, it's a bit strange. I would think if it was more of a thing of, hey, when he last said this, it was a year ago, you can say, hey, maybe they've been doing testing, maybe they've been doing some real background testing to see if they can get smart contracts on the XRP ledger and seeing how it would work and whatnot in a testnet environment. But to have said something like up until like a month or so ago, and then you've literally just changed now, it does seem a bit strange to me. It does seem like a very strong pivot. Now, the one thing I will say about this, and this is something that I've been trying to say to you guys for the longest time, and this is for all the people who believe in like the $10,000 stuff off of like, XRP being the bridge currency and stuff. If you ever needed evidence that ODL just isn't as successful as they want it to be, this is it. Now, don't get me wrong, David Schwartz has said it himself, and I've said this so many times, but people never want to believe it. But this tells you all you need to know, because let's just be completely blunt here. If ODL was as successful as they wanted it to be, they wouldn't need to add smart contracts in, right? Like up until this point, they've not bothered with smart contracts because they've wanted it to be directly focused on ODL being used as a bridge currency. The fact that they're looking to introduce smart contracts now, it tells you straight away, ODL just isn't doing as well as they want it to do. That's why they did the AMM. That's why they're doing the stablecoin. That's why they're now looking at smart contracts. They are, to a degree, pivoting. They are. Now, I'm not saying that they're leaving ODL completely, not at all. But what I'm saying is, they're not focusing solely on cross-border payments anymore. And this should show you that. Right? So when you've got all these like hype content posters who are just now saying like, oh, smart contracts, this is going to be the thing. Like, they're not telling you the full story. And maybe they're just not as informed, because some people, there's people out here who just do hype content. They'll just make out anything to be positive. And if they can't give you like the other side of things, as I've always said, be careful who you listen to, because this isn't all just great. It's not. Like, that's just the truth of it. But it depends as to how much it will affect the network, right? Like, if they can actually pull this off, and it really doesn't bring down like the TPS and affect it being a bridge currency, then this is a positive, right? That's great. But the question is if, and that's a big if, because for the longest time, David Schwartz has been saying doing smart contracts will affect the network. And so he's saying he's seen stuff now that was, that's changed his mind. Maybe that's true. I'm not saying that he's lying, but maybe it's still yet to be seen, right? Because this is the thing that I always say as well. Like, testnet environments are good, but the problem with testnet environments is they're testnet environments, right? So you can kind of, in a testnet environment, you can make the environment as suitable as you need it to be to do what you need it to do. So, for example, TPS. When you do like a really high TPS run in a testnet environment, you can set the environment to be as suitable as you need it to be to get it as high as you need it to be. What the thing is what is it going to be like in the real world when the mainnet is actually there and it's running on the mainnet? Because this is where you can't account for like the other unforeseen things that you might be thinking of, right? It's not a test environment. This is a real life environment. And so there could be many things that could affect the actual TPS in those kind of circumstances. So to me, like, even if they've done it in a testnet, that's good, but we need to see how it would run on the mainnet. Now, one thing I will say is, just because these guys are saying they want smart contracts now, doesn't necessarily mean it's going to happen. It will need to go to a vote, so the validators will have their say. The only thing I will say is this. I know smart contracts is something that people have wanted for a long time. And my only concern here is, are you just thinking about what you want and not what's actually best for the ledger itself, the network itself, right? Because if you just think, oh, well, smart contracts is just going to bring a load of developers over to the network, and that will help bring up price because I'll be developing more projects that could make, the XRP network more attractive. Well, are you thinking about how it could affect ODL, which is one of the main use cases? And then if ODL gets impacted, what if then companies who Ripple even have right now, like, this has really gone downhill lately, don't really want to use RippleNet and XRP anymore. It doesn't seem to be working as fluently as it used to. Like, it's having issues now. It's not as fast, whatever. Gets bogged down when there's too many people using the network. So there's all these factors that could really affect how this goes down. So it is a big deal. As I say, if this is something that can be tested thoroughly and, that can be exactly how it plays off when it goes live, then great. If it's something that's not going to affect the performance of the XRP ledger, so it can still do what it's, most known for, payments, then this is a positive, of course. Like, I'll be all for it. But if this is going to be something that actually affects the performance of XRP and the ledger, well, then you've got to come down to what do you want here, right? Because, you know, everybody's got into XRP. One of the most known reasons why people even got into XRP is because of it being used as a bridge currency, right? For cross-border payments. Like, that's its famous, you know, its thing, right? So if you start to like affect that, then, you know, even as investors, they might say, hey, if you take away ODL, I'm not interested anymore, right? Like, especially like the hype posters, like, you know, the people who are talking about $10,000, they're really basing this off of ODL. So if you start to say, hey, we're going to kind of take a step back from ODL, a lot of these people who believe in those hype numbers, they might just be like, right, I'm out. If they're taking away ODL, I'm out, because that's what I believe the whole reason XRP was going to, you know, get to those figures for. So even the hype people will probably start to have doubts and things like that and want to maybe jump ship. So it really could have a big effect. So overall, I do understand in terms of the developers being frustrated. I do see that. And I do understand the people who are saying, well, why now? Like, why are you suddenly going to smart contracts? What's with the pivot? And to me, the answer's simple to me. It's, look, cross-border payments, it isn't as successful as they've, you know, wanted it to be, which David Schwartz has said this. So the amount of times I've told people this, and this is why I say with the hype posters and the people who like get at me in the comments, it's like, I'm telling you things that they're actually saying. Like, David Schwartz has said this. This isn't really like news to me in that regard. Like, I'm very aware of how ODL has been because I do my research. I make sure that I look at what things are being said, David Schwartz, stuff like that, Ripple. I keep up to date with this stuff. So I'm not that surprised in that regard. But, you know, I try to give you the truth, but, you know, whether people want to accept that, that's up to them. But yeah, like, it just tells me that ODL hasn't been as successful and they're looking at other ways. They're looking at other ways to bring developers to the network and ultimately value to the network. So if they can pull this off in a way that doesn't affect the main, you know, the main performance of it being a bridge currency, then great. I've got no issue with that because that's only a positive. You're only adding another feature that can help bring more people and value to the network. But if it's going to mess with the actual core of what XRP is as a bridge currency, then we've got a problem because that could affect a massive chunk of what XRP is, and that could affect a lot of its value being taken away. So we will see. I'll definitely keep an eye on this. I definitely like to hear your guys' thoughts because obviously this is something that's really big. What are your answers? You know, definitely drop me your thoughts. I'll be interested to hear. Thank you very much for watching this. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Take care.